Most people don't know this, but what actually goes into having success with personal finance isn't actually the money itself, or the numbers, or the budgets, or anything like that. That's about 20%. The majority of what goes into having success with personal finance actually has to do with the mental and emotional sides of money. Hi, I'm Cody. I'm a financial coach, and I help people rapidly eliminate debt, boost up their savings, and over the last 5 years, I have helped my clients see a combined financial turnaround of over $5 million.
I mean, you can have like the best budget in the world and the best plan, but it oftentimes doesn't work because you're often overlooking one of the biggest things with finances, which is how it kind of affects you mentally and emotionally. You know, there's reasons as to why you spend money in a certain way. There's reasons as to why you feel about money or what you believe about money. And oftentimes, you know, it can be tied back to how you were raised. Maybe it's something that you went through, or maybe it's even your environment that you're in. But there's a lot of things that go into, you know, your relationship with money. And the thing about it is, like, if you don't have a good relationship with money, then it doesn't matter how good the budget is. It's not going to work, which is why so many people get frustrated with it, is because, like, you know, they think that they've got this awesome plan, but they start doing it and maybe it only works for like a week, a month, and then something falls off. It's because they're not aligned with their money and their behaviors are not aligned with their values either.
So, I was working with this girl, and she had a really bad spending problem. Basically, we actually found out that she had almost like an addiction to spending. With her upbringing, she went through so much. Like, her parents, were in and out of jail, drug addicts. When she was younger, they had a house fire and lost the house. And not only did they lose the house, but also she lost her sister in that house fire, and she died at a very young age. And, just kind of like growing up with with all those tragedies going on top of the instability of the financial situation, because again, her parents were drug addicts in and out of jail. She had that side of things, but then the one good thing was that she also had some grandparents that actually did quite well. They were very wealthy, very well off. As she was growing up, she had two realities that she saw. She saw the struggle bus, and then she saw the good life. So as she, grew up and became an adult and started making her own money, there was part of her that, wanted to relive those good life days and not have to deal with all the stress, anxiety, and quite frankly, just tragedy that she had to deal with on the other side of her life as she was growing up. And, I would even go so far to say, like, she was even avoiding that struggle so much that it was actually causing her to spend this money almost in a defense mechanism kind of way, to where when she would spend money, she would feel really good because that was her safe place. She was away from all of the issues that she had to deal with growing up, all the tragedy she had to deal with growing up. And it was almost like her own way of manufacturing, trying to live and relive that good life, right? So in a sense, she was going after that sense of control with that very thing. And that led to a spending addiction. Every single time that she was feeling down, every single time that she was questioning herself, questioning where she was at life, she needed a little pick-me-up. So she went out to the stores, picked up a new outfit, picked up a new purse, got a cup of coffee, like whatever it might be, just to say, hey, I'm doing okay. And if I can do this, then that means that I'm taking care of myself. So that was what was going on. But what we really found is that there was two sides of her. There was the side of her that wanted to take care of herself now, and kind of like fill that need of all of the just tragedy that she went through. But then there's another side of her that really was driven to accomplish big goals. But she questioned herself, especially from where she came from or, her upbringing. So there was this side of things where she was very impatient with, accomplishing these goals. She really wanted them now. But at the same time, because she wasn't healed from what she went through with her parents or the fire or her sister, she was also trying to really take care of herself now at the same time. And the now side of things was overshadowing taking care of herself in the future or actually doing what was actually best for her. So one of the ways that we kind of talked about, overcoming this was just adopting a new kind of mindset, something called aggressive patience, right? And in breaking that down, there's basically two sides. The patience side of things is just accepting the fact that your goals are going to be accomplished. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And being totally okay with whenever that may be. It could be next year that she's out of debt. It could be 5 years from now that she's out of debt. But just accepting the fact that it's going to happen is the patient side of things. The aggressive side of things, though, this is where one of the biggest reasons as to why people struggle with being patient or even accomplishing goals in general is they think about all of the things that they have to deal with. They think about getting out of debt, building their savings, preparing for retirement, and they think about it in terms of years. They're like, this is going to take forever. And when they think about that, it becomes very overwhelming. And that overwhelm then turns into anxiety, and then that also turns into just paralyzation. It's like analysis paralysis kind of thing. So I encouraged her to shrink her focus off of all the things that she has to accomplish and in the amount of time that she has to accomplish it, from in the sense of years to not even months to not even weeks, but instead just focus on one day at a time. Because if you were to shrink your focus to one day at a time and you just say, hey, I'm going to do everything that I can to move the needle just a little bit, not to accomplish the goal, but just to move the needle towards accomplishing it just a little bit. And I'm going to win today. I'm not going to worry about what happened yesterday. I'm not going to worry about what's happening tomorrow. I'm just going to focus on winning that day. And then the next day comes, you're not going to worry about what happened yesterday. You're not going to worry about what's happening tomorrow. You're just going to focus on winning the day today. If you were to do that, what's going to happen is that you're going to start winning those days because you're shrinking your focus. And those little wins start to stack on top of each other, and they then become big wins over time, right? So this is a really good way to help build consistency. It's a really good way to help build confidence. And it's a really good way to really just progress through these goals, because by the time that you get to, a month or a year later of just focusing on winning those small battles day after day after day, you're going to look back and be like, wow, I've actually accomplished so much in such a little period of time that I never thought that I would have been able to do that before. And that's one thing that we kind of talked with her. She felt relieved. She really felt relieved. She said something to me along the lines of I've always felt like there wasn't something right. I make good money. I shouldn't be struggling, but I am, and I have been for years. And this kind of gave me a lot of clarity. And, with that clarity, I can just tell you, that was our first session that we had. Been working with them for about 4 months now. And I can tell you that since then, they have paid off probably 3 or 4 of their credit cards. They've only got 1 or 2 left. And I see them being out of debt here very quickly. I would say probably within the next 6 months. But they've knocked out almost half of it in 4 months. And a big reason for that is because she's not spending money crazily anymore. She's not spending money because she feels like she needs to fill a void anymore. She's spending money because she's spending money on things that actually bring value to her and also align with her values too. So she's curbed her spending habit, and yes, she's spending less, but it doesn't feel like she's spending less to her because the stuff that she's actually choosing to spend money on, she gets a lot from. So she's content, she's satisfied, and not only is she satisfied with the things that she's buying, but she's really satisfied with the debt that's going down and the goals that she's accomplishing too.
Well, I think that there's numerous things that you could ask yourself, but I think that probably one of the best ways to start with that is just kind of asking yourself hey, what are my biggest pain points with money? What are the things that you feel are maybe holding you back or They're not healthy or they're counterproductive, whatever it might be. So that could be a behavior, like a spending habit. It could be a mindset, like maybe you think that money is the root of all evil. But what are those pain points? And really just start asking yourself questions around like, why do I feel this way? Or what causes me to, act in this manner? Maybe even where does it come from, kind of thing. And start peeling back those layers. And every time you give yourself an answer, you just ask yourself another question based off of that answer, until some clarity starts to come into play. So I think that the step there is figuring out like, well, what exactly are you trying to control, right? And I also think that another step would be figuring out what you actually want, because like sometimes when we're going after that sense of control, we think that what we want is the ability to spend the money, ability to have choice, or maybe it could even be just the ability to have those material things in life. But it's not fulfilling to us, and that's why we're always spending more and more and more. So because we get that dopamine rush, but it never really sticks, So I think that identifying like what do you actually want in life, what's going to make you feel fulfilled, and what's going to be your bigger purpose, and then shifting your focus from the material items to instead focusing on the purpose and controlling the outcome for that, because that's what's actually going to excite you. That's what's going to make you feel motivated. And that's what's going to, ignite that fire in you to actually like go after and accomplish these goals.
So if you're struggling with this and you're looking for more ways to pay off debt super fast, give me a follow.